Everyone,
I gave you
Thanks,
extra
Steve.
copies of the agenda.
here and out there.
We're going to begin with audit, finance, and governance.
So I'd like to call to order the Audit and Finance Committee meeting. Purpose today is to get an update on our audit situation, and I will go right to Meredith for that.
Thank you, Steve. Good morning, board members. We've met with UHY in early December with our kickoff and planning meeting. We've uploaded the required documents to the UHY portal. The audit is proceeding on schedule as it has in previous years, and we anticipate an on-time completion before 3/31/22. We have also reviewed the GASB 75 actuarial report from Harper Dinesh. That came in earlier this week, and it is currently under review. And that's basically it for the audit update.
Okay. Any questions on that by anyone out there? Any other business for Audit and Finance? How about a motion to adjourn Audit and Finance?
So moved.
Second it?
Sure, second.
Sarah?
Steve?
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Good. Thank you.
Okay.
The next meeting on the agenda, or the overall agenda, is the Governance Committee. That should be the next agenda.
Okay,
Up.
let's call the Governance Committee to order. Bob?
Yes, as part of the Public Authorities Law, which was enacted with the Public Authorities Accountability Act, it's a requirement every year that we take a look at the property disposition guidelines and the investment policy to see if there's any changes that need to be made. As you know, we do this on an annual basis. We look, the policies are intact, and there's nothing that would necessitate a change. So therefore, this committee would, if it agrees, would make a recommendation to the full board that you adopt and restate the existing policies without change.
Okay. Any questions? We're not going to be disposing of anything, or?
Nope.
And we will make that recommendation at the full board meeting. The next item on here is board evaluations, which we fill out every year. And I will say what I said last year as well. As you know, this is all confidential information. If there is anything that you would like to discuss on a confidential basis with me, I'd be glad to have those conversations with you. Because and who looks at this? Where does this go?
Authority Budget Office. It's,
Okay.
I turn it into the Authority Budget Office later today.
Yeah, and I know from my Capitalize Albany days, they do look at these, and if we have issues, we really do need to address them. So I just throw that out there and say if there's any discussion that you think is appropriate, it will be kept confidential, and I'd be more than happy to have those discussions. Any questions about the evaluations? Any other business?
Yes, I have one item, if I may, please.
Sure.
On Friday, the 25th of March, using the Office of Harris Beach, Bob Ryan will be conducting the JCOPE refresher course.
Oh, right, I had that later on.
And we're going to hold it at 2 p.m. It'll be a virtual, so that it'll allow everybody to join remotely if they'd like. Now, for those that have not taken the initial course, I think there's one board member that has not. That would have to be taken ahead of time, and the recommendation would be to do so through JCOPE. But this is the refresher course for all other board members. We're scheduling it in March, hoping that Friday, 2 o'clock, it's about an hour and a half or so. It can be less. We'll make it as efficient as possible. And that will get us inside the date, which is the beginning of May for the renewals, and that will put everybody in compliance.
What's that date again?
March 25th, it's a Friday. It's the Friday after the audit meeting. The audit meeting is that Thursday.
March 24th, is it?
So it would be March 25th, which is a Friday. It would be at 2 o'clock via Zoom, and we'll issue connection. Bob and I plan to be in the same room, so we should be able to have a pretty coordinated presentation as we did before.
And is that the one that's like 2 hours?
I think we can do it in less than an hour and a half. That's what we found, because what Bob did originally, Sarah, was to trim it to just those things that apply to volunteers who are not compensated. We made a PDF, we handed that PDF to Jacob. Jacob ended up making their own PDF that's specific, and it's very tailored, so
Great.
we're gonna use that,
Thank you for that.
yeah.
So about 2 to 3:30, something like that.
Yeah, I think if you allow an hour and a half maximum, that should be enough. We'll try to get it done in an hour if we can. Now, Jacob does the refresher course, but it's a more than 2-hour commitment. So we're trying to make it more efficient.
And again, because that covers employees as well, so this one is tailored specifically for items that are applicable to board members that are volunteer.
Okay, and the one board member that we have that did not take the initial, we'll make sure that that gets done prior to.
That's correct. Yep, notices will be going out.
Okay. Good. Okay, any other business then? Can I have a motion to adjourn the governance committee, please?
So moved.
Steve, thank you.
Second.
Sarah, thank you. All right. Moving along to our annual meeting.
The annual meeting agenda is under tab 3.
And I do see Megan is on now, which is a good thing, because Megan will be leaving us. She has tendered her resignation, and she has been with us since 2013 and was former board chair and has certainly done a wonderful job for us during, really during the construction and development of this project. And she's on to the development of another huge project at the Port of Albany. So I know you'll join me in wishing her well, and she won't be too far, and we'll be watching her, and I think she'll be watching us. So that's a good thing, and thank you so much for your service, Megan. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Okay, moving along. Approval of draft minutes of the governance committee and our quarter 3 meeting in October. Can I have a motion? Any questions?
So moved.
Thank you, Sarah.
Second.
Thank you, Steve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Wave.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Bob, I took those as one, is that all right?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
It's the same composition and
Yes.
it's on the same date.
Right. Okay. Steve, treasurer's report?
Morning again. And I'll go right to Meredith again.
Thank you, Steve.
Tab 4 of your booklets.
Yep, Section 4. Thank you, Duncan, for improving the size.
Yeah.
Oh, it's in
again.
keeping with the Zoom. I zoomed in on it.
Age-related move.
So these are the financial results of the Albany Convention Center Authority as of December 31st, 2021, starting with the statement of net position. We ended the year with cash and cash equivalents still very strong at $3,652,136. Total receivables were $291,904, giving us total current assets of $1,208,713. Fixed assets came in at $71,366,381, giving us total overall assets of $76,519,135. For liabilities and equity, accounts payable were $114,057. Total other current liabilities were $1,098,149, giving us total liabilities of $1,212,205. Equity ended at $75,306,929, with total liabilities and equity totaling $76,519,135. Moving on to the statement of revenue, expenses, and changes in that position. Starting with the detail on the Albany Capitol Center. Total operating revenue for December was $73,897. For year-to-date, $469,782. On the expense side, total operating expenses for the month of December were $204,493. Year-to-date, those expenses were $2,143,637. Total net loss for December was $130,596. The year-to-date net loss for the Capitol Center was $1,673,855. Moving on to the Convention Center. Total income for the month of December was $484,305. Year-to-date results were $3,492,511. Total operating expenses for the Convention Center for December were $215,785. Year-to-date, those expenses were $2,819,403, giving a December net income of $268,520, and year-to-date net income of $673,108. Total overall net income and losses were $137,924 for the month of December, and net loss year-to-date of $1,747,000. Just to note again, depreciation and amortization are non-cash items. The depreciation year-to-date was $2,240,151, and we did have extraordinary income grant income coming from the shuttered venue grant, operators grant of $627,000, and those are the December and year-to-date results.
Anybody have any questions, about any of those numbers at all?
I don't have a question, but Meredith, we did receive the hotel tax, the distribution.
That is correct. So
Yeah,
the
that-
hotel tax distribution came in last week, late last week.
Correct.
And that was a little over 800,000. So we had actually under accrued the revenue for, we've trued it up in these financials, but we had under accrued about 350,000. So that was a nice surprise to see that.
Which is in keeping with some of the things that the Economic Impact Committee meeting reviewed, and we'll be hearing later from Jay and Jill, Shannon, and others, that we're starting to see slight improvement in the hotel sector.
The occupancy levels are creeping up
Slowly,
quicker than we thought they would this year.
incremental,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay,
Anything else? All set.
great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Moving on to the election of officers for the coming year. And that's tab 5.
Correct. It begins with a memo that was prepared by council. With your permission, Michelle, I defer to Bob, let him go through the,
Sure, and right behind the memo is resolution number 1 for 2022, and that is the election of officers. And the slate before you today would be Michelle Bernard as chairperson, Daniel Lynch as vice chairperson, Stephen Lerner as treasurer, and Serge Reginelli as secretary.
Any discussion from the Zoomers?
Motion to approve the slate as stated.
Yeah, just a note on the Zoom, it shows Megan Daly as the secretary.
That's the existing, Megan. The slate is then changed later in the memo.
Okay. There you go.
There you go.
Well, that's the committees. That's.
That's committees, but.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the initial was the memo, just laying out the purpose of the annual meeting, the existing officers, our committees. And then the new slate is actually the next document, which is resolution number 1. So it should be after this memo. There we go.
There it is.
There you go. Thank you.
It
Yep.
was sort of, it was a before and after, Megan.
Yep.
So your resignation wasn't an April Fool's joke?
You want separate motions?
Yeah, so was there a motion made on this? or
I don't
not?
think
No.
so, but
Okay.
we're gonna need separate motions, and the only thing I would ask for a roll call if you could, only because I'm trying to, for these are important.
Oh, okay. So do we have a motion?
I think John made it.
This is Megan. I can make a motion.
Okay, Megan, seconded. Thank you, John. And you want me to take it separately, you said?
They need to be taken separately. Who made the motion?
Megan did?
Megan did, okay.
And John,
I got the second, yeah,
Second.
thanks.
And then you wanted a roll.
I'd like a roll, just to make sure that we're all set.
And would you like us to abstain for each individual position? Is that the purpose of doing them separately?
No, you don't have to abstain.
No, just for the slate, then separately for the next, for the policies.
right.
Okay. So,
But we can do it for the slate. We don't have.
Yeah, you
That's
don't have
correct.
to do it individually. It
Yeah.
would be
Okay.
for the slate.
I'm sorry if I
And
confused.
everybody can vote on that.
Okay. All right. I'm having a hard time seeing that, the Zoom people.
John, Megan, Evan, Dan Lynch.
And
All right.
Mike Hoffman's up
We've
for
got
Oh, Mike Hoffman's on top.
Mike Hoffman,
Yep, approved.
John McDonald,
Yep.
Megan Daly,
Yes, approved.
um,
Oh, Dan Lynch?
Dan Lynch,
Approved.
and Mike Screbutanis. Are you still there?
Still here. Aye.
Okay. Steve?
Thinking about it. Aye.
Sarah?
And I.
Okay.
In the chair?
Oh, and me.
Okay, great.
okay,
Hi.
thank you.
Okay.
Next.
We made it.
Okay, great, thank you. The next item is resolution number 2 for 2022. And as the committee discussed in the governance committee, this is the adoption and restatement of the investment policy with no changes being made.
Okay. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you,
Mike
Sarah.
Hoffman.
Thank you, Mike. You're a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
I,
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, the next resolution, number 3 for 2022, and also as discussed in the governance committee, this would be the adoption or restatement of the guidelines for the disposition of property. And again, it's being adopted without any changes.
Okay. Motion?
Dan Lynch.
Thank you, Dan. Second.
One second.
Sarah, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We already discussed the board evaluations, and you took a look at those. So I think we can move on to the economic impact report.
I have one more piece of business under this that I've included in the folder.
Okay.
We have a second amendment to the memorandum of understanding that exists between the authority and the Albany County Convention Visitors Bureau.
Uh-huh.
This is a simple restatement. It provides new signatures, updates the costs to reflect the information that's been provided by the Bureau,
Okay.
and there is followed by a motion.
This is on tab 5 also?
Yes. We're
Any-
asking the board to consider that this morning. It does not substantively change
No.
the actual annual cost. It rearranges the application of costs to reflect some of the services that over time have been adjusted, changed to meet the needs of the market. And we've been working closely with Jill Delaney and Jay Cloutier to make sure that this reflects what they need to do, how we can support, continue to support the Visitors Bureau in its efforts.
You know, it's a little further background. The original MOU was entered into back in 2010. And then subsequent to that, we did do a first amendment to the agreement to do the same thing, just tailor some of the services and tailor how the cost expenses would be made. And now this is a second amendment doing the same thing, describing the specific services and how the cost would be allocated for those services.
That's fine.
And so in your packet also behind the actual second amendment is Resolution 4 of 2022, and it would authorize the approval of this second amendment and authorize the executive director to execute such document.
Any discussion on this issue?
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, John.
I'll second. Mike Huffman.
Thank you, Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, now you can go.
Yep.
If I stand here, is the mic gonna pick me up? Or I can get it. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Jill Delaney, President of Discover Albany, we're proud to present the economic fourth quarter impact report for the Albany Capital Center. Scrolling down to the mission statement on slide 2, just a constant reminder of the process, the methodology, and the thought process behind how we collect and evaluate the data. Scrolling to the next slide, reviewing the fourth quarter direct spending totals by segment. Certainly this last quarter, meetings ruled the roost with 13 at a $186,781 of direct spending generated through those 13 meetings. They varied wildly in size, but it was a nice reminder that people do want to meet face to face. These were mostly small meetings, but there were several large meetings mixed into this that border on, do we classify it as a convention versus a business meeting? So these are that second layer of good business that generate impact. Just each of those business meetings were slightly smaller than historically took place in the past, but the sign is there that people do want to continue to meet. There were 6 public events, and as a reminder to the board, there was discussion at the last meeting as to how to classify general admission concerts or shows. So those dropped into this category here as public, so that's as a reminder that why that number is 6. It's not often that high. 10 events in the social, 1 event in the sports, and then 3 events at the trade show level. Moving on to the next slide. The highlights, as I mentioned, reasonably sized business meetings did return. These, as memory serves, these were repeat meetings of one kind or another or a reschedule. Trade show and public events did draw many attendees, which reminds people that the building is here and the building has unique and dynamic functionality. So those were the highlights that we noted as we assembled the report. Next slide. Just as an overall review of the indicators that we report on, total spending just under $500,000 at $494,974. Total sales tax, $31,751, with roughly an even breakdown between sales and state and county at $15,000 plus or minus dollars. Total visitors generated, 12,530. Total hotel room nights generated, 328. Total events, 33. Full-time equivalent jobs at 11. Again, reviewing the mix of business and the size of some of these events, just not a large generator on some of those figures that we are accustomed to in the past. If we do review fourth quarter 2020 versus fourth quarter 2021, the red is where we are now. So in comparison, we have come a long way. Not a lot of blue, which was last year. So we were blue last year for certain. This year we've definitely seen some improvement. Moving to the next slide. We did fail in the committee to include this slide of the total year in review, so we are including this now. Total spending for the year, $6.3 million. Total sales tax, just over $500,000 at $578,577. Total visitors generated for the year, 45,464. Total hotel room nights generated, 15,175. As a reminder, there was significant sporting activity, which was really the pillar for those numbers. That's where the success was seen. The building met the market where it was, so they did a great job in pivoting or accessing business where they could find it. Moving on to the next slide. This fiscal year 2020 versus fiscal year 2021. Again, 2020 is in the blue, and we can see that convention did have some significant impact in 2020, and that was all first quarter 2020. So if it feels like a long time ago, this is a reminder that it wasn't that long ago. We're still comparing ourselves to the first quarter of 2020, where we saw significant activity in the building for the first 2.5 months of the year. And again, as I mentioned, sports, that red pillar, certainly highlights the fact that that's where the building pivoted and met the market where it was. Next slide. And then we do the what we refer to as the life of the building slide. Certainly, there's room to grow as we always effort towards that. Total spending, $55,189,344. Total sales tax at $6.4 million. Total visitors generated, 362,730. Total hotel room nights generated, 86,426. Total events, just under 700. Any questions regarding that particular?
Evan, could you move to the next document, which is the outlook? Thank you.
So as the pandemic began, we started looking at how we can inform the board as to where the market rests, where the market has been, where it potentially is going. We've been doing this slide now for the year, comparing 2019, which was a banner record year for the hospitality industry, 2020 in the yellow, and then the green, which is where we're at right now. And as you can see, there's been slow progress getting back to 2019, which was an excellent year for our market and an excellent year for the building. You can see we've almost closed that gap on occupancy. If you'd like to scroll down to the next slide, revenue per available room, or as the industry refers to it as RevPAR. It's an industry standard metric that helps you compare hotels across brands and across service levels. Again, the closing of the gap between 2019 and 2021 is very, very encouraging. There are success stories within that number, and there are certainly areas of concern within that number as well. But overall, I think we as a hotel and the hospitality industry can be very proud that we've kind of clawed back to just under where we were in 2019.
I think that these two slides really tell the story, and perhaps we could make an effort together to get that story out. Certainly occupancy is, you don't want to start talking about RevPAR to the general public, but I think the occupancy could really make a positive story for this destination.
I would agree. In talking with my hotel colleagues, I think they don't realize how good of a job they've done because they are so exhausted. So I think a public recognition of the hard work that the hotel industry has done certainly would be at least a little bit of a boost.
Certainly in light of the recent news of foreclosures that are happening, especially
Yeah.
downtown. And acknowledge, and I know we're looking at which hotels are really seeing the improvement, and which ones are still struggling, and, hotels that are typically experience meetings and government business are the ones struggling, and so it's sort of a flip-flop from the hotels that used to do really well in the market are the ones who are having a harder time recovering, but, all in all, it is an improvement, so the downtown ones need a little extra boost, though. It's been tough for them, especially this month, because we thought we were going to do better. January was supposed to be bad, right, and then it came crashing down.
Moving on to the final slide of this report, this is more anecdotal or studies that we received that we wanted to give you the highlights of what other professionals are viewing in the marketplace. So in March of last year, or in March of 2021, we commissioned a forecast for our market. And that top chart on the left there, the forecast the STR did for our market for occupancy was 46.4%. We actualized 49.5%. RevPAR 42.76%. We're at 47.73. And while these numbers can be interpreted in many different ways, I think the fact that we beat a forecast and we're continuing to see success at some hotels, I think that simply tells us that we're going in the right direction and that the forecast foretold of not huge success, but success on the horizon, and we've kind of achieved that. In my mind, we've exceeded it, but I would defer to those naysayers who might say the numbers aren't really true. Certainly we've had closings. The forecast didn't account for closings, but we've also had reopenings. So I think the forecast was said a little bit gloomy. I think we beat that. So I'm happy to report that.
And can I add to that, Jay?
Absolutely.
We've looked at this internally. We haven't run a report because, as you noted, Meredith, we just got the occupancy for Q4 last week. But this doesn't really reflect the increase in occupancy collection that we saw over what we projected. What we projected is pretty much this, what we projected for 2021 occupancy collections. But what we're seeing is that because a lot of the business that did come back was taxable, and the tax exempt business is not what was able to come back, the nonprofits, our number was a bit higher, it's an extra $200,000 per point in collections.
Okay. Note to self,
Yeah.
go after that taxable business.
Taxable business, baby.
Yeah.
Taxable business.
Do you know how these numbers compare to, not as much nationally, but to the Northeast?
It
That ever
really
been broke?
varies because it depends on the type of destination we're looking at. Places like Lake George had actually banner years. They did better. Even Saratoga had a better summer than they've seen in a long time. We're not that type of destination, so compared to other convention destinations, we're actually doing slightly better. And that's what we were projected to do because we're not simply government, we're not simply higher ed, we're not simply high tech, it's everything. So that balance boosted us a few points above comparable destinations, which there aren't a ton of comparable destinations within the state.
CBRE adjusted their expectation of returning to 2019 levels to the second half of 2023. I put this particular snippet in there only because they did qualify that in the very next paragraph by stating that development of Omicron variant and other potential variants make the forecast uncertain. So I think the one thing we can be certain of is there's a lot of uncertainty. And then finally, I attended a online seminar with CVent. This is an industry lead portal and a meeting planning entity as well. They did emphasize that their particular perspective was that hybrid meetings and the functionality of having hybrid capability will continue to be a facet within the meetings industry, and not as much as a way to include people who couldn't travel because of illness or lack of flights, but as an additional revenue generator for the organization planning that meeting. So I think that really bodes well for all the forethought of investment and cooperation with ACES to make the facility capable of recording sessions and doing a studio type setting. That was pretty critical they spent about 20 minutes of the 40 talking about this hybridization of meetings, not necessarily as an inclusionary, but as an additional, hey, you couldn't make it, next week it's gonna be online for $150 less, or, you know, we're gonna bring in a speaker, we're gonna film that speaker, and then take that speaker aside and have that speaker do an additional session we'll sell to everybody else at a later date, creating content revenue generation for organizations. So I think that's an interesting wrinkle.
And we're seeing that play out with Destinations International, for example, is doing that with their marketing summit. You know, it's not something that the smaller destinations with under $2 million budgets like ours can always send their people to. So they just have a rate of, you're not coming, we'll send you the videos after the fact. But they were never going to come. The people who are going to come are going back to those events. So it's capturing a market for them that they couldn't touch before.
Any questions on the Outlook report?
On that hybrid meeting, should we be considering any facility changes to accommodate, you know, the after panel video recording or anything like that? Is there anything from a, you know, a capital improvement side that we should be thinking about?
I would defer to the operational staff of the building. You know, in talking with the hotels on a regular basis, not a lot of them are doing anything about it. They'll just like set up a small meeting room on the side. You know, I think the operations team, once they kind of look back at what they've done this year and move forward and continue to get those requests, it would inform a decision. Certainly, something to be considered in a long-term strategy.
Just an outside studio or something like that to make sure it would set you apart from the hotel convention space.
Well, I think we've pretty much been on top of it.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, the only part we haven't done is monetize this. We have the skills, we have the equipment, we have the in-house capability. And ACES took a very quick step forward by going with the video walls that we've had available for the last year and a half, 2 years. So we have the technology, we have the infrastructure in place here. And I included in the meeting minutes from the I committee meeting, your notes about monetizing this and how this could be. So that's something we need to, I think, with sales, since from a facilities perspective, it's here. But from a sales perspective, we need to look at those opportunities. And if our clients haven't come up with this on their own, maybe it's something we could suggest. Because I thought it was very intriguing, especially the idea of, if you can't attend, which some people cannot, or they have a hard stop and can't see the entire thing, they could still, do a pay-for-view on a streaming media, some streaming platform rather, in the future. So the good thing is, Sarah, I think that we have everything here, including the personnel.
That's great. Yeah. I would
And the
agree.
fact that this board invested in 3K originally, when it was still very new technology, has put us in a position where we're competitive. That hasn't changed yet. It's the one thing about technology that hasn't changed.
Right.
They're still
Yeah,
relevant.
just have to get
It's a very
meeting
good
planners
question, though.
to understand we all win.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that offline with the team here, so we can share what.
And the other thing that we're seeing, and I don't want to preempt what Shannon will be talking about, what you will be talking about, Anna, but we're also seeing hybridization of the hybrid model. I mean, it's a combination of in-present, remotely, and then various forms of remote as well. So be flexible. Seems to be the word of the day.
Okay, thank you. Oh, there you are. You're on the bottom, Shannon.
If I could ask you to turn to tab 7 of your reports. And we begin with the year-end report by ASM summarizing this past year with a look toward the future. And with your permission, I would defer to Shannon.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for letting me attend virtually. I look forward to being a little less tired and attending in person in March. But I don't know about the little less tired part, but let's see how that goes. But thank you so much. We're going to start with recapping the end of the year report. Obviously, all of you know it's quite lengthy, so I'm just going to go ahead and pick some highlights for us to go through. Financial highlights pretty much was already updated in the beginning of this meeting. The one largest hit that we took this year was a reoccurring banquet that usually happens for us at the end of December. That unfortunately, that cancellation led to a $172,000 hit to our budget at the end of the year. So kind of a tough way to end December for us, but in the meantime, we did have some other filler events that didn't do quite as well, but we were able to at least have some filler events in December to help us close out the year on a positive note. We have definitely had some transitions of positions for the Capitol Center, something that we haven't had to deal with for quite some time. But just like a lot of other businesses and people shifting around, we found ourselves in the same scenario. As those of you know, Doug left in June of this past year, and I taking over his position as general manager. Anna was officially promoted to senior sales manager, and she's doing a fantastic job in that role, and also, helping out while I am gone on leave. Our accounting manager resigned in October. We have officially filled that position, and the gentleman named Vincent has started this past week. We have promoted our operation manager, Joe Levins, to facility manager. And we have combined our event security manager and the operation manager position together, which has helped us realize some financial savings and just made a whole lot of sense when we were taking a look at things. Being able to combine that job together, they really go hand in hand. So we're looking forward to developing and continuing developing that job. The last one is the parking garage manager has resigned. That was a shared services arrangement, and we are going to absorb that job within our own staffing. So that job will now fall under operations. So we will not be entering into another shared scenario, mainly because our parking garage is only 100 parking spaces, and it's not manned. So it really is, we really are able to take responsibility for the garage and take it under our own management without a shared role. We are currently looking for an event manager. I have 3 interviews on Friday, so more to come on updates for that as well. Sales highlights, we ended with a total of 170 events for the year. A myriad of different varieties, from the sporting events leading the charge, followed up by meetings and social. Those still continue to be the 3 strongest markets that we're seeing and continuing to see moving forward. We did have quite a few successes for 2021, even though they might not have been as large as we would have liked. Michelangelo exhibit being one of them, 4,500 attendees, was a wonderful turnout and a wonderful effort. That followed by a myriad of sporting events with gym rats and zero gravity, and then a couple of concerts rolled into that as well. Obviously, we realized, as Jay said, a couple of different trade shows. The House of Kicks trade show came twice this year with 700 attendees each, and I think we'll continue to see them. We had our first cheerleading event in the building since we opened, so that was a very exciting moment for us this year. And the chamber came back with a wonderful attendance for their dinner. We definitely had a lot of meetings come through and a lot of conventions come through sort of in this last quarter. As Jay mentioned, they might not have been as large as we'd like, but they still utilized the space. We still helped them as a team design a program that worked for them, where the meeting planners and attendees felt safe. So it was all positive. It was all moving. We're moving forward in a positive note. We just got to work on getting people back through that door and making them feel good about that. As far as a breakdown of travel, there was a mix of virtual and in-person events that our team was able to attend. Some of them were wonderful experiences where we got great information that we could take back to the team and, really develop more resources and planning measures that we could put forward. And others were great for appointments and sales generation. So it was a good mix there. Baker Public Relations continues to be a wonderful partner for us. They have worked with us this year in particular on creating videos. They did about a video for us once a month. They also helped us with the Michelangelo event, which was a wonderful success. And in addition to that, a myriad of press releases and news articles. We had 10 press releases and several news articles that kept us in the forefront of being out there in front of meeting planners. 42 media stories in a year where we had a whole bunch of ups and downs is a great positive thing to position us as continuing that premier event location and what we were doing to help that process. We've shared a lot of those resources with our clients. That helps even in our selling measures that, they know we're out there. They know we're reporting on some of these great features and these great things that we're doing. And, Baker PR has really, really helped us do that. Our marketing plan moving forward for the future year will continue to, advertise in the local market for the first 2 quarters. In looking at everything, I think that's still where the majority of the business will be coming from for this first half of 2022, or at least that's what we're seeing. And then the second quarter, if we see, things start to change or start to open up a little bit, we'll shift our plan and start doing more regional advertising and outreach. Our continued plan for that will always be, we're open. And we're safe, and we're implementing all these great things to help everyone feel good about coming to our facility. And as we go, we'll tweak that message as needed. Work on where we're going to travel for this year and what sponsorships we're going to do for this year. I set aside 10% of our marketing budget for sort of the unknown. We're not quite sure if there's going to be opportunities coming up last minute or maybe something that hasn't been examined yet that we want to take part in, that came about in 2021 that I would have loved to participate in, but the budget being set was challenging for us to kind of ebb and jive the way I wanted to. So we have a little bit more flexibility in that for 2022, which is great. Community involvement for 2021, we definitely wanted to do more. COVID and the pandemic, unfortunately, didn't allow us to do certain things like donating Halloween costumes. That's one thing we've done for the last couple of years, and we couldn't get anyone to agree to take them this year. So, it's definitely been an interesting, challenge for us to do. We even tried to do a farewell to 2021 holiday show in conjunction with Baker PR, much like the parade that was done last year or 2 years ago. And unfortunately, we found a lack of participation in sponsorship and from our non-for-profit clients, which was what the event was supposed to benefit. So unfortunately, we sadly had to pull it. And, next year we're going to start brainstorming some different ideas and see what else we can get on the books for sort of an end of the year community event for us. As far as operations goes, this is probably the meat and potatoes of, what we've done for this previous year. A myriad of things that we're so thankful that the authority has supported and helped us with, from a wall protection system for our restrooms that really allows us to have a better preventative maintenance and easier cleaning measures in those areas. A new camera system that really has reduced blind spots and improved our customer vendor service. In addition to that, we've invested in a new TV system for our command center, which has really allowed them to really be set for quite some time. And we've really planned for the future on this upgrade for our camera system and safety. One of the most impactful improvements was ACCA's investment in our new website. I know I've reported on that several times, but if you have not checked it out, I highly recommend it. It's a wonderful, wonderful investment on the authority side, and it will continue to service us into the future quite readily. Much, much easier for our team to update and navigate and change. It's a forward focus on meetings or events and what there is to offer, and the capability that we have to have pop-ups come up for alerts for COVID or an upcoming meeting, pictures and videos and all that sort of great stuff that's allowed on there. I see that continuing to grow for quite some time. We purchased some additional inventory, some event inventory that was needed, which will again service us for quite some time. Also, the installation of the bipolarization system is an amazing sales tool that we've taken a step further and done some one sheets on between that and the MERV 13s and G-Box certification and Venue Shield from ASM. We have a nice little toolkit that we can send out to meeting planners to let them know of all these wonderful resources that we have at the Capitol Center that really puts us above some of our competition. Another thing that stands out is the Mamava Pod. That's gotten some really great press. We certainly have had some local outreach as well. I actually met with 3 or 4 groups that came to actually see the Mamava Pod in person. They're looking to do something similar in their own offices. So it definitely, allowed us to have some extra outreach there as well. Corporate support, we continue to have great support from ASM, weekly calls with our regional. We have Zoom meetings with other facilities to share updates on operations and experiences. That really allows myself to really see what's going on, not just in our market in New York, but in several different markets surrounding. We're able to share ideas, share what has worked and what hasn't worked, what certain places have seen come down the pipeline as far as events, and seen some locations really start to rebound a little bit faster than where we're at, and some locations rebound a little bit worse than where we're at. So, it's a really great resource to have. ASM also continues to, help us with our event booking calendar, lead referrals, and training and support for our staff. Mazzone Hospitality has really kicked it up for 2021. They completely we worked with them on completely redoing their menus. So the corporate menu is quite different than what we've had really since, 2016, from before the convention center was even open, when that menu was developed. It has seasonal items in it. It has a little bit more of a COVID-friendly approach. And I see them working with it as we are. We're continuing to tweak and kind of see how the business falls. They are continuing to work on a commissary basis, and we will continue to monitor that situation with them. If there is a group of meetings together, in March is a perfect example. We have 2 back-to-back conferences that really are going to span about 14 days. They have agreed to come back to having a permanent staff in the kitchen for that time, because they're going to be serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a long span. So we're continuing to work with them on a plan and operations so that we can get back to what we're used to, which is having a full staff on site. They did have some really great highlights as far as events for them. Coaches versus Cancer, they did a unique tailgate station where they actually served food out of the back of a pickup truck upstairs. So that was really, really fun for them to do. Obviously, they found great success with the chamber dinner. And they had a really, really great success with the Gojira concert that we had, as well as a few other rap concerts. Concessions and bars have done quite well. They also had a great closeout with the MWBE conference. That was in mid-December. They did quite a bit of food and beverage, and while their attendance wasn't quite what they expected, Mazone did a fabulous job at servicing them, and it really was a nice large event for them to close the year out. I think, like all of us, they're looking forward to rethinking and being flexible. I think Duncan said flexibility is the key, and I think that hits the nail on the head for many of us, you know, and seeing what this next year holds and, you know, what we can do to make sure our clients are being serviced appropriately. We got some great customer testimonials. These are just a few samples of the next page, if you want to go to, are just a few samples of some that we have received. And I will end this report really on just a quick snapshot of the survey results. There's several of them listed in here. I added a few more in than I normally do because I wanted to make sure the board saw some of the COVID measures that we were going through and the results of that. You know, just I'll take just the first two in general just to go over. The first one is COVID-19 protocols and ASM Global's Venue Shield program. You know, what people's views on that. We got an excellent 98% rating on that. And working with clients to design a COVID-19 conscious event, I think that one speaks volumes. That ended up as a 99% excellent for us. You know, our whole team has been working hard, and even our event managers have been trained on how to design social media, or I'm sorry, not social media, social distancing floor plans. So, you know, the availability of having those resources and being able to be a resource for our clients, or sort of a go-to for our clients for that, is been a wonderful thing. The cleanliness of the facility, the accuracy of our setup, and many others of these surveys I'm just so proud of where we're at. One of the ones I think is interesting is, did you use a virtual/training option for your meeting? 60% said no and 40% said yes. So out of the people that responded to our surveys, it's almost a 50-50 split. And I think that's very telling to the story that's been told today, that, you know, there is a hybrid of a hybrid. And normally what we ask clients is, what is their definition of hybrid? Because there has started to become so many definitions of that category. I think for the rest of them, I'll wrap up on the last survey of the mix, and that says, what would help your association or company feel comfortable hosting a live event again? Obviously, we're a little biased here, and we want people to come back in person. So I think this slide is very, or this pie chart is very telling of that story, specifically calling out, you know, travel restrictions, being able to host a hybrid event, you know, the COVID vaccine. There's a myriad of different items on this chart that I think is just very helpful, and it's a nice little look-to for us. And unless anyone has any questions, that wraps up the end of the year.
Thank you very much, Jen.
You're welcome.
Great job.
And then, did you guys want me to do the Q4, or do you think the end of the year sort of covered what we needed to?
I think the end of the year pretty much covered it.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got it here if people want to look at it. We have the report.
Gotcha.
Okay. Duncan, do you want to tee up D? Or Bob?
Certainly. I'm sorry, when I said D, I missed something. Yeah.
Is this the Senate?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I can, I'd like to address that. That's the, as the board may recall, when we entered into our operations agreement with ASM, their fee is based upon a two-component system. One is a base fee, which is paid out through the year, and then there's an incentive fee that is structured that's based upon what happened during the year. And again, this is customary for this type of contract in the industry. So when we developed the contract and negotiated the incentive fee, it's basically a fee that's earned based upon certain performance. And the performance is the sort of the productivity of the center as well as quality. And then the productivity is based upon, you know, the amount of revenue that's over the revenue that we earned the previous year, the amount of event days, the amount of events, the amount of hotel rooms. And then the quality component is based upon some very specific survey questions and whether or not, you know, 80% or more of the respondents gave it a good or higher answer. So this year, obviously due to the continuation of COVID, the performance numbers were down and the benchmarks weren't hit because the formula was drafted in a way where it is based upon what an average year would look like. So they weren't hit. So for the performance numbers, there's no incentive that was calculated. Now, for the quality, they did hit all the quality benchmarks, which is excellent. But there's an overall cap that was built into the incentive fee and says, regardless of what the overall incentive and base fee added together, that total compensation cannot exceed 5% of the revenues. And again, unfortunately, given COVID, 5% of the revenues came out to be a number that's actually even lower than the base fee, but our contract does say in no event will the compensation be less than the base fee. So for this year, you know, there is no incentive fee. And this is something that every year the Economic Impact Committee will review. They review the numbers, they go through the formula, and normally we report it out to the full board, and the full board actually approves the incentive fee that would be paid to the operator. This year, we just wanted to, you know, make sure you understood that the Economic Impact Committee did go through that process, but there's nothing for the full board to approve because there is no incentive fee given the current situation.
Thank you, Bob.
Yep.
So Duncan, you want to tell us how we're going to spend that money?
Well,
Saved?
the last tab 8, has a summary of the capital improvement projects. Some of the minor projects are in progress, some are planned. Anything that would exceed my approval authority would, of course, be brought before the board before we contract anything. And certain of the items, if you go to the very bottom of the page, certain of the items are large enough where they're going to be bid. So we bring those results before the board with a recommendation. The smaller items, some of them are very miscellaneous. You know, it's a matter of buying some carts to make sure that we have carts that are with good wheels that don't destroy floors and that are in sufficient quantity so there are end users have enough to move their material in and out of the building. Some of those are very simple things. We're doing some repairs and maintenance. You can see that it hits a number of areas. If there are any questions, I can take them, but we'll be keeping the board updated. And yes, some of that money is money that we had originally dedicated to other items that we've now shifted to the capital improvement. But as Meredith can state too, I mean, in review of it, we're in a reasonable financial condition at this point in time, in part what Jill had mentioned as well, that the receipts are a little bit higher than we originally planned on, and those monies have been shifted to investing in the building.
Do you have a kind of an annual schedule that, how these will proceed? Should we look for, well, we'll get an update in March on what's
Yeah, I think
progress.
I'm going to take advantage of each time that the board meets to provide additional information. I think as we start to sort some of these things out, that if the board agenda allows for the March meeting that is dedicated to the audit, that if the board has the time, that we might review some additional items then.
Okay. But do you have a schedule in your own head of how these are going to play out?
The hope is that we will take advantage of those traditionally slow times in late August and between the holidays. That was not the case in 2020, so we moved the capital improvement schedule up because the entire year turned out to be slow. So the hope is that the larger items, for instance, an epoxy floor, the exterior foundation coating and things like this, those things would be timed with the weather, but also around the, what we have traditional slower times. So part of the reason I'm hedging in answering is that we don't have the full schedule, the full idea of when we're going to be busy this year. So I'm looking for some guidance from ASM as the calendar starts to fill.
And I will say, moving that up in 2020 also kept staff on here. I mean, some of the projects that were done gave work to people, and which is a
I think it's
very-
important to recognize that the investment that the authority has made in brick, mortar, steel, and concrete is important, but it's also the investment in personnel. We have a very good team here, and Shannon spoke to some of the adaptability, the flexibility that this team has exhibited, and keeping that team together was important. The decision that this board made to stay open as opposed to shutter this venue was a very important one. It allows us to invest in the facility, but it also let us invest in personnel. We haven't lost people because of the COVID. You lose certain people because they see a better opportunity somewhere else. And I think some of the people that have moved, that's what they were seeking, is just they thought of a better opportunity. Can't discourage anybody.
Oh.
But the moves that are within also shows the capacity, the greater capacity. As you know, some of the people that moved within the structure, they saw an opportunity to grow themselves, and ASM, fortunately, is giving them that opportunity.
Fantastic. Questions from any of the board on this list? Okay, coming down the home stretch. Bob, did you have anything else?
I just wanted to add, the annual meeting's also a good time to take a look and consider committees. Under our bylaws, the chair has the authority to appoint members. And as you know, we have a full board consists of our Audit and Finance Committee and our Governance Committee, mainly because we have a smaller board, and we have limited staff, and it's more of a working board, so that makes sense. But we do have a subset that's the EI Committee, so you don't have to do it now, but the chair, you can think about if you
Sure.
wanted to make any changes to that, and then appoint members to that.
Yep, let's
And
try to get our strength up a little bit,
Yeah.
in numbers first.
And to that point, with Megan's resignation today, you lose a member of that committee.
Yeah. So let's put that on for March.
Yeah.
We'll take a look at that. Anything else? Well, first of all, I think the reports were just fantastic. Very important for the board to have all this good information. And thanks really to the staff for your continued creative, and partners for your continued creative approach. And let's get through this. And also thanks to Duncan, who's really a great steward of this building, and also showed a great deal of creativity during this past year. And we just talked about keeping our employees busy and active during the year. So thank you to all of you. Another thanks to Megan for her service. Dan Lynch, feel better. And any other business to come before the board?
Michelle, can I just mention a couple things?
Sure you can.
I just wanted to, a couple things. First of all, in regards to the appointments, individuals have been forwarded to the governor because it is a governor's appointment. And as the board should know, we are in regular communication with them to try to encourage them to move this along as quickly as possible. So hopefully this time when we're down a few members will be short in many aspects. And my understanding is that the executive folks are also making sure that, the city and the county leadership is aware of who's being forwarded, so there's collaboration, which is important.
Mm-hmm.
I also just want to take a moment to build off of your comments earlier and thank Megan. I think we actually came on the board about the same time, if I remember correctly. We're pretty close, and it was interesting because there was a lot of talk about Gavin leaving and what's going to happen next, and it was just a perfect transition. to go from the construction to the operations component. And obviously, she's handed it off to you, and you're doing a remarkable job. But, Megan, thank you. Your spirit of collaboration and sincerity is very evident to all of us. And, going back to my legislative role, I'm very excited about the fact that you will be able to dedicate more time on the wind energy work at the port, because I think that's going to have a major regional impact as well. So who knows? You'll have 2 regional entities you've made a great impact on, and that's an exciting thing.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you to everybody. This has been a thrill to be a part of this, and this is just the best team. So I hate to, leave a spot or leave any, difficulty, but you have the best team, and it's the best time, I think. And, new expertise and new voices and new spirit is always, a benefit, I think. But thank you for those kind words, and thank you to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And to the sales team, go find wind business now.
We can help. That's a good point.
That's actually a very good point.
That is a good point,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
They're not just blowing hot air either.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So,
Okay, so we've got John and Steve. Thank you so much. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Annual
Thanks,
meeting can
everybody.
get a little long.
Great job.
but Appreciate it.
Keep safe.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you.